The humming sound wasn't just mechanical, it was accompanied by a soft, rhythmically wet scraping noise from inside the tank. "You shouldn't be down here," a voice gasped from the shadows. I spun around instantly, dropping into a low combat stance. Standing by the stairs was the old maintenance worker I had seen earlier. He held a spanner, his arms shaking violently as he stared at me in shock. "It's not safe," he stammered. "None of this is safe." "What is in that tank?" I asked, keeping my voice low and completely calm. The man swallowed hard, looking around nervously as if the walls had ears. "It's a specimen container. Recovered from an unmapped survey sector 3 months ago. Some kind of organism. It was supposed to be completely dormant, brought in for research. But a structural shift in the lower hull cracked the primary seal a week ago. And it's waking up," I stated. He nodded, pale with fear. "I've been trying to patch it, trying to buy time until a specialized containment team arrives from the central hub. But they're still 4 days out. The crack keeps expanding." I didn't want to cause a panic. "The engineering showcase is in 2 days," I said sharply. "Right above this vault. Hundreds of students and station officials will be standing on top of a leaking biocontainment breach." I tried to tell them, the engineer cried quietly. "I begged the administration to move the event. They told me I was overreacting, that the schedule couldn't be changed for a minor maintenance issue." I stepped closer to the cracked tank, inspecting the dark sludge leaking out. "What kind of organism is it?" "The survey notes called it a apex predator," he whispered. "Hyper-aggressive, senses movement and thermal signatures. It reproduces exponentially once active, and its secretions ruin life support filters in enclosed spaces." Every word he spoke set off alarm bells in my head. This wasn't just a hazard, it was an invasive Deathworld predator waking up inside an enclosed space station full of defenseless civilians. "We need to evacuate this section and seal the sector now," I said. "I told you, nobody listens to me," he said helplessly. "Then we make them listen," I replied. "How long until that crack gives way?" We leaned in to inspect the casing. The crack had widened by another inch since I had arrived. Thin, dark tendrils of organic matter were feebly poking through the gap, testing the air. "We don't have 2 days," I said, my Deathworld instincts assessing the physical strain on the metal. "We might not even have 2 hours. Is there any way to reinforce the seal temporarily?" I asked the engineer. "Just enough to buy us time to force an evacuation." He nodded nervously. "There's industrial hull sealant in the upper storeroom. It's meant for atmospheric breaches, but if we slather it over the casing, it might hold the pressure for a little while. But it takes 20 minutes to retrieve and mix." "Go get it," I ordered. "I'll stay here and monitor the breach." The man hesitated, staring at me, a 14-year-old girl standing calmly in front of a deadly alien containment breach. "I can't leave a kid down here alone." "I'm not a normal kid," I said, my voice cold and firm. "Go. Now." Something in my eyes convinced him. He turned and sprinted up the metal stairs as fast as his legs could carry him. Left alone in the quiet vault, I stepped back from the humming tank, keeping a safe distance. I kept my flashlight aimed at the crack. The temperature in the room was rising rapidly as the specimen's bio-heat radiated through the broken seal. Crack. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. A large chunk of the reinforced glass casing shattered inward. The thick, dark sludge spilled onto the floor, and from inside the dark interior of the tank, a long, segmented creature began to uncoil itself. It was covered in glistening chitin, with multi-jointed limbs and no visible eyes. It moved with sickening speed, reacting instantly to the vibrations of the room. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my mind stayed razor-sharp. Panic was a luxury for people who had never seen death before. I backed away toward the stairs in slow, measured steps, keeping my movements completely smooth. The creature didn't have eyes, which meant it relied on sound, vibration, and heat. If I ran, the heavy thud of my boots on the metal deck would draw it straight to me. Step. 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 I kept my eyes locked on the beast as it dragged its full body out of the tank. It was roughly the size of a large hound, but its body was built entirely for killing. It let out a low, terrifying hiss, its mandibles snapping against the cold air. Suddenly, the heavy footfalls of the returning engineer echoed down the stairwell. No. I thought. The creature's head snapped toward the stairs, sensing the heavy vibrations. Its muscular hind legs tensed, preparing to spring up the staircase toward the unsuspecting man. I didn't think. I acted. I grabbed a heavy iron wrench from a nearby worktable and slammed it down onto a metal storage crate. The loud clang shattered the silence of the vault. The creature spun toward me instantly, letting out a furious screech. It flared its side vents, spraying a cloud of dark, sweet-smelling mist into the air, the chemical secretion the engineer had warned me about. Hey! I shouted, drawing its full attention. Over here. The creature lunged. It crossed the distance between us in a heartbeat, moving like a blur of dark chitin and snapping jaws. On Quran 9, the predators were faster, larger, and far deadlier than this. I didn't freeze. As the beast leaped through the air toward my chest, I dropped flat onto my back, sliding across the slick deck plating directly beneath its airborne body. As it flew over me, I thrust the iron wrench upward with all my strength, jamming it directly into the soft joint beneath its main forelimb. The creature screeched in pain as it crashed heavily into the metal wall behind me. Green, acidic blood sprayed from its wounded joint, hissing as it ate into the deck floor. I scrambled back to my feet instantly, retreating toward the narrow stairwell. The creature shook off the impact, turning its blinding rage toward me, but its damaged limb made its movement clumsy. At that exact moment, the engineer appeared at the top of the stairs carrying a heavy tub of sealant. Followed closely by 3 armed station security officers he had managed to flag down in the upper hall. Down there, the engineer screamed. Look out! The security guards took one look at the thrashing, acid-bleeding alien monster and pulled their energy rifles. Clear the line, the lead officer yelled. I dived behind a metal support pillar just as a barrage of high-energy stun bolts illuminated the dark vault. The heavy fire slammed into the creature's thick armor, shocking its nervous system until it collapsed onto the deck with a heavy, twitching thud. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the heavy breathing of the guards and the quiet hum of the broken tank. The lead security officer stepped forward, his rifle still raised, staring in utter disbelief at the twitching beast, then at the damaged tank, and finally at me. What in the galaxy? The officer breathed, his face pale. How did a student find this? How are you still alive? I heard the warning signs, I said simply, stepping out from behind the pillar and wiping a streak of dark dust from my jacket. And I know how to move when something is hunting me. Within an hour, the entire lower sector was put under strict lockdown. Heavy containment squads flooded the area, securing the specimen and completely sealing off the lower docking bay. An official announcement was broadcast to the school. The engineering showcase was officially relocated to the main station atrium due to unexpected environmental maintenance. No official mention of the alien predator or my name was released to the public. The station board wanted to avoid a panic at all costs. But rumors in a closed space station travel faster than light. The next morning, the atmosphere at Meridian Station School had completely changed. When I walked down the main corridor toward my locker, students didn't laugh or point. They stood back, whispering in hushed, respectful tones. Priya ran up to me near the science wing, her eyes wide. Kessa. My dad told me everything when he got home last night. He said you saved that engineer, and you held off an unmapped Deathworld predator with a wrench. It was just a small one, I said quietly, adjusting my backpack. It doesn't matter. Priya said, her voice full of awe. Everyone is talking about it. The security guards told their kids, and now the whole school knows. As we stood there, a group of students approached us. At the front was Marcus, flanked by his two friends who had tried to corner me weeks ago. Marcus looked deeply uncomfortable, shifting his weight nervously from foot to foot. Kessa, Marcus said, his voice quiet. He looked me dead in the eye, no arrogance, no cruelty left in his posture. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For how I acted by the transport bay. I thought you were just playing tough. I had no idea. It's fine, Marcus, I said calmly. No, it's not fine, he insisted. We act like hotshots here because nothing bad ever happens to us. You actually know what the real universe is like. Respect. He extended his hand. I looked at it for a second, then shook it firmly. Before classes started, Dena found me near my locker. She didn't have her usual entourage with her. She stood alone, looking small and uncertain. I heard what happened down there, Dena said softly, staring at the floor. I spent weeks picking on you because you were quiet, because you didn't fit in with us. I thought you were weak. She swallowed hard. I was wrong. You're stronger than anyone on this station. I looked at her for a moment. Where I come from, survival isn't about bragging or pushing people around. It's about looking out for the person next to you, because tomorrow, the sky might fall on both of you. Dena nodded slowly, accepting the lesson. Thank you. For not letting that thing reach the upper decks. For the first time since I arrived on Meridian Station, I felt the heavy wall between me and the rest of the world begin to crumble. 3 weeks after the containment breach, the station administration organized a mandatory survival and emergency training exercise for the senior class on the station's outer hull ring. It was meant to teach us how to handle sudden pressure drops and zero-gravity emergency maneuvers. Standing in the airlock chamber in bulky pressure suits, the other students looked nervous. Dena was standing next to me, her hands visibly trembling as she struggled to latch her suit's safety harness. Without a word, I reached over and clicked her harness securely into place, double-checking the seal. She looked up at me through her visor, startled. Thanks, she whispered. Focus on your breathing, I advised her softly. Panic drains your oxygen twice as fast. When the outer airlock doors opened, revealing the vast, silent void of space, the students moved cautiously along the external gantry. I moved with natural, fluid balance. Zero gravity was new to me, but adapting to hostile environments was second nature. Suddenly, a loud metallic screech vibrated through the gantry. A heavy cargo crane on the upper maintenance deck had snapped its mooring cable. The massive steel beam swung wildly through the low-gravity void, heading straight toward the section of the gantry where Dena and Priya were standing. Look out, someone screamed over the suit comms. Priya scrambled back safely, but Dena's magnetic boot jammed against a deck plate. She frozen in horror, staring at the multi-ton steel beam barreling toward her. I didn't hesitate. I kicked off the gantry deck with all my strength, launching myself through the microgravity void like a spear. I slammed into Dena's torso, dislodging her stuck boot just as the massive crane beam smashed through the gantry where she had been standing half a second before. Metal shattered, sending sparks flying into the void. I grabbed Dena's tether cable, pulling us both back onto the safe section of the deck, securing our magnetic locks before the decompression warning could even trigger. Silence fell over the suit comms. Officer Holden, the drill instructor, sprinted over to us, her face pale inside her helmet. That reaction time. She breathed over the radio. You moved before the sensor alarm even went off. Where did you learn to move like that? I stood up on the metal deck, looking out at the endless sea of stars, feeling the steady, unbroken beat of my heart. Quran 9, I answered clearly over the open channel, no longer hiding who I was or where I came from. It's a death world. Where I come from, moving fast isn't something you learn in a classroom. It's the only reason you get to wake up tomorrow. Denna looked up at me from the deck, tears shining in her eyes. You saved my life. Again. That's what we do, I said, offering her my hand and pulling her to her feet. In the days that followed, I was no longer the weird, silent transfer student from a poor colony. I was Kessa of Quran 9, a survivor, a protector, and a leader. I still carried the scars of my old world. I still missed my brother, Tuvin, and the red skies of my childhood. That pain would never completely leave me. But my mother had been right, surviving didn't mean nothing bad would ever happen to you. It meant that when bad things happened, you kept standing. You kept fighting. Meridian Station was no longer just a cold metal structure in space. With Priya, Marcus, and even Denna standing beside me, it was slowly, surely becoming something I hadn't had in a very long time. It was becoming home.